Rather than speaking to my experience, I've been asked tonight to reflect with you about the prison industrial complex. And so for just a few minutes, I would like to invite you to think with me about the sinful irony of the prison industrial complex. Those with ears to hear, as Jesus would have said, have been hearing for years about the reduction and the elimination of programs, services, and educational opportunities within the prison system. We've heard it on the plaza this week from the testimonials. I have heard it from prison chaplains and volunteers in religious ministries. I've heard it from my friends and colleagues at Centurion Ministries down the street, those who work to free the wrongly imprisoned, the now 50 exonerees who tell their stories and collectively represent almost 1,000 years in prison for crimes they did not commit. I've heard it from you volunteers from ABC Literacy, many of you who have volunteered in helping prisoners teach one another, a reading program now banned from the Trenton State Prison for how many years now? 4 years not allowed into the prison. While so many work for and preach about and campaign on ending the cycle of repeated incarceration, essential programs for rehabilitation and job preparation and learning have been systematically, intentionally, exponentially eliminated. Ironic doesn't begin to describe it. The lists that inmates provide, the list of changes in the last decade, the list is beyond what can be read here this evening. Reduced religious services, visits to the law library stopped, arts and hobby programs cut, laundry services reduced, food quality described as, quote, drastically worse, exorbitant pricing of basic goods in the commissary, dehumanizing treatment of family and visitors, not enough jobs, and radically fewer classes with little hope of being allowed to sign up for them anyway. And the list goes on and on and on. Taken individually, one might think any of these to be minor, incidental, or even a lost privilege typical when incarcerated. But when you put them all together these last years, in the words of one prisoner, quote, it demonstrates a pattern of written and unwritten policies and punitive measures intended to harass, intimidate, demoralize, frustrate, and antagonize the prison population. Or to put it another way, an intentional withdrawal of programs to ensure that the prison population continues to rise, by investing in and betting on the cycle of reincarceration. A cycle that, when multiplied to the nth degree, only underscores the mass in mass incarceration. A cycle that offers an indictment to the religious roots of the word penitentiary, penitential, penitent, penitence, repentance, understood in my Christian tradition as a process toward healing, wholeness, restoration, new life. A penitentiary system that is fed by an ever-increasing population, intentionally weighted so many, keep coming back. How religiously ironic. But it is not just ironic, religiously ironic, it is sinfully ironic. As Michelle Alexander puts it, to quote her, prisons are big business and have become deeply entrenched in America's economic and political system. Rich and powerful people have invested millions in private prisons. They are deeply interested in expanding the market, increasing the supply of prisoners, and not eliminating the pool of people who can be held captive for profit. In this case, Professor Alexander, who is not shy of strong language, is not strong enough, not explicit enough in her language, because it is rich and powerful white people profiting from the mass incarceration of African Americans and Latino men and the immigrant populations they like to call illegal. One is left to conclude that an intentional withdrawal of programs is driven not by justice or by social science, but by an increased profit margin. An industrialized prison complex driven by little more than money. Prison reform cuts into profit margin. Getting rid of mandatory sentencing for minor drug offenses eats at the bottom line. Repealing 3 strikes and you're in, that's just bad for business. Corrections Corporation of America. It's trading today on the New York Stock Exchange, just today, at just shy of $40 a share. At midday today, that was up about a full percentage point. They went public in 1986 at $9 a share. Now, I'm a pastor, partly a theologian, not a mathematician or an investment person, but by my calculation, and I checked it with somebody today, that's a 300% growth in 27 years. By any investment firm a few blocks from here, that's a pretty good investment. According to their March 2013 investor report on their website, they are the largest privatized prison company with 44% of the market share. And that includes partnership prisons where they are engaged in various business relationships with the states and the federal government for property development, property management, and prison services. They boast that these partnership arrangements have absorbed 100% of the inmate population growth from 2008 to 2011. Attractive investment characteristics listed in their PowerPoint to investors just last month. Investment pluses for CCA, Corrections Corporation of America, include the affirmation that future bed shortages are likely and will drive demand higher, an increased interest in selling government-owned facilities to private-owned operators, an avoidance of the, quote, high-risk juvenile business. Revenue is calculated per occupant, not per room, and that certain contracts provide occupancy guarantees. Read, we can put as many inmates as we can fit in the cell. And one major slide appears with this title in large letters, quote, filling vacant beds drives earnings. And in the small print, actual operating occupancy can be significantly higher than standard operating capacity. And a vacant bed waiting to be filled only costs them $1,000 per bed per year. And the numbers in even smaller print indicate if CCA was able to fill the roughly 20,000 available beds in their facilities as of January 1st, 2013, their profit would increase $117 million. Profit defined as total facility revenue less facility operating expenses. $117 million incentive to fill vacant prison beds, mass incarceration, mass profit. The board of directors are listed on the website of Corrections Corporation of America, and there are 14 directors, 11 white men, including one former senator, 2 white women, and 1 African-American man who is the son of Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall. Now, I have no idea what to do with that bit of irony. But the optics of an overwhelmingly white board of directors with an executive leadership team dominated by white men leading an ever-increasing and rising profit-making effort that relies on repeat offenders and mass incarceration of minority populations, well, it may be capitalism, but the optics are chilling, and the irony of a justice system where commitment to rehabilitation and community reentry is replaced by a commitment to dividends and share price and keeping beds full, that's just sinful.